G'day, hi and welcome. So, apparently these are all 11mm sockets. I cannot get an 11mm socket in there, and I don't know how they got these rails on here in the first place, but I'll just show you. They got these little plugs in there. I don't want to take those out just yet. The decision I've come to is I'm probably going to remove all the hardware off the deck. But before I do any of that, I want to basically plan it out very well and price it out what it's going to cost to seal up all these holes. So the railings are going to come off, the winches are going to come off, the jam cleats are going to come off. All that stuff's coming off. The railings come off, going to refinish those. Then what I'm going to probably do is see if I can get a hold of a pressure washer and see if I can take off the rest of this osmosis. There's not very much left in it, but I can't get under the railings very well. So even with a wire brush type of stuff, you just can't seem to get in there. So I'll try it with to clean the hull completely spotless as much as I can with the pressure washer. But if that doesn't work, then I might see if I can sandblast the entire deck with all the rigging off of it, and then see if I can re-gel coat it. Now we're looking at some money that will have to do that. So before I take off anything, I want to make sure I can seal every hole while I'm waiting to save up for whatever it's going to cost. So I'm going to talk to some marine guys what they would do, because I don't want to paint the deck. I want to restore the deck. The deck's not bad. I mean, the gel coat is, yeah, it's old and it's gone or whatever. But you can see the wax restore. I just put a little bit of polish on there, and you can see how it just shines right up. I don't know if you guys can see the sheen on that. So yeah, this is still a good deck on here. It doesn't need any major work, but if I do the restoration of the deck, kind of like, think of it like a kind of a freshen up, at the end, it'll last another 20 some odd, 40 years, whatever. This boat's going to last a long time. It's one of the best used 26s I've seen out there, but it's starting to get stuff that I need to fix up. Like, I'm starting getting some cracking here, so I'm going to use, crack be gone and stuff like that on it. Little stuff like that, clean all that up. If I have to add new trim, I'll add new trim, whatever it is. But the thing is, if before you take off all the hardware, it's easy to just go gung-ho, and then you go start pricing out stuff. Next thing you know, it becomes a bigger job and a more expensive job than you anticipated. And if you don't want that, it's best to price it out first. So what is it you want to do? I want to remove all the hardware. Obviously, the varnish and stuff like that, that's cheap. Then I need to reseal. I don't know if you guys can see it. There's like a little bit of a rubbery stuff in there. That stuff dries out over time. You can see some in here. I put some silicone there, but it's like a gasket type material. It's under every piece of, pretty much under every piece. You could barely see it under this one, but basically what it does is it seals the boat, so that the water can't seep through the hardware and then in between the cores and rot the boat. Right? That's why you should clean your boat as much as possible. Just keep it up and going. But like stuff like this, I want to remove all that so it doesn't get any better. It's coming out slowly but surely, but also like stains and stuff like that. It'd be nice to just bead blast it all, make it all white, clean, and then fill up all the cracks first and then bead blast it all. And then once I was done with that, put all the hardware back on. So I'm going to see what it costs me to do that. Might not get it done all this year, but if I can at least get all the hardware off it this year and just seal up, including the railings. I would like to replace these railings because these are, the back is removable, but and the bowsprit is removable, but those railings are not. And the downside to those railings is that in the wintertime when you just want to throw a tarp over it, you can't because it'll poke through the railings. So what I'm going for now is just put a tarp over the top of it for the wintertime, but so it doesn't leak anymore. This was the first year I actually had water in the village, so it means the hardware is probably starting to leak a little bit. I know there's a couple of leaks there. check out my chain plates and all that. But again, I want to cost all this stuff out before I get into it. So if you got a boat as a project boat, yes, it's easy to start ripping things out and stuff like that, but cost it out before you do, because you have to plug every hole that you open up, right? And you can do that cheaply with marine silicone for temporary while the hardware's off of it. But when you go to put it back on, I think it's called marine putty or whatever. You can see that there's marine silicone that I just went around all the hardware with marine silicone a couple of years ago. Actually, a decade ago, and now I guess it's time to do it again. But if you do it right, then you get no leaks in the boat for like the next 10, 20 years, maybe 10 years. The stuff does dry out over time, but it depends how you take care of it, right? So I thought that a quick little tip before you start tearing all your deck hardware off and stuff like that. Price things out. Go talk to people that do this for a living. I don't do this for a living. I have worked with fiberglass, but the big thing is what I want to do is, like I say, if I were to bead blast this, take off the remaining of the old gel coat, just so everything is clean, fill all the cracks and all that stuff first, do all that, and then bead blast it all, sand off whatever I got to sand off, fill in what I got to fill in, and then put on some layer of gel coat restore. And then once I know how to do that, then I'll go a little bit more on it. But the stuff I can do right now is prep it for that. But before I prep it, the thing I want to make sure is that all the holes that are going to be in the boat, when you pull these railings out, all the holes that are going to be in the boat, well, now you got a clean hole right through, so you don't want those leaking, right? So that's why I cost it out. Go get some supplies you're going to need, because what will happen is, as soon as you don't ever know 100% what you need. You think you do, but you don't. Like say, for example, you take out boat windows. Well, you leave those things open and exposed, you're going to have a rotted deck pretty quickly. So you need to be able to cover all those things. I want to redo all the windows, even though these windows are really marvelously well kept. The only one that really leaks was this one here, but I temporary siliconed it about 10 years ago and it stopped leaking. But it needs to be taken out, clean. That old stuff needs to be cleaned up and refreshened up. And again, like I say, you could cost it all out. Do a lot of research before you take anything apart. And yeah, I'll just leave that as a quick tip. So before you take off all the hardware to redo your deck, price things out. Think that's a fire truck? Huh. Uh-oh, hopefully nothing's cooking. Alright, so anyway, I'm going to leave it at that. So there you go.